let's do this one. Okay, so this is a 4-hour chart. The 4-hour is going to close in about 55 minutes. Okay, we have currently taken these highs. Right? So liquidity has been grabbed. This was supply on a 4-hour time frame. We go to a higher time frame. We have clear resistance here. Okay. So if this 4-hour closes below this line here, then there is a possibility of a short that you guys can take. I'm not taking it. I am not shorting this market. I'd rather long pullbacks than short. I don't care, as I mentioned in my video, I don't care if it's a 30% pullback. I have disabled my red button. But if we close here, we take in liquidity, we even got a rejection from this order block. Okay, easy scalp. It's less than, depending on where this closes, right? Less than a 1% risk. Stops above the wick, and you're gonna take profit at levels of support. So the first one would be, let's do this. Here's the first level of support. Second and third. Right? Not saying we go back down there, but when you are shorting or when you are longing, your TPs come at levels of resistance or support, right? So these are your levels. Now, if we close above here, it's going to be very risky to short, but also on a higher time frame, right? There is no reason for swing shorts to be taken here, okay? We've had all of these rejections from resistance, okay? We had a deviation here, but the more a resistance is touched, or the more a support is touched, okay, the weaker it's going to be. So we've had a deviation, and let's say like 1, 2, 3, 4 touches of resistance. We have a possible inverse head and shoulders being put into place, okay, and the technical targets of this head and shoulders, or inverse head and shoulders, is around 85K. All right. Now, if you're taking shorts, you better take shorts on a lower time frame. So, like for example, here is a double top, right? If you were taking a short here, once this candle, not only did it swing failure, right, but it came back and rejected at the previous swing high. This was a great short to take with a very, very minimal risk setup. Okay. This already gave you about a 2.5 hour trade. All right. Now, if you are shorting, it better be on lower time frames. So anything, say, hour to 2 hour, you can use higher time frame, but everything on higher time frame currently looks bullish. Okay. Now, if we're taking long scalps, we have this order block here that hasn't filled, stops below the wick, little M into there, probably some type of harmonic. I don't trade harmonics, but I can see them. And then, right, something like this, put in another high or low, and go up from there. Okay, so this was a perfect short to take. This is not valid. I'm just pointing out, like, this would be a low time frame short. This would be your low time frame scalp. Everything is less than 1% risk. So I'm just going to place these in chats here. But if this 4-hour closes at, like it is currently, below this, let me remove this one, below this line, which is at 70.72, then this would be your short setup. Okay, and TP1 comes around your entry price. 69. Yep. I know my harmonics, like I know them. I just don't really use them. I know the names, the measurements. I'm just too lazy to pull out the tool and go from there. But I see them when they happen. Okay, so here's Bitcoin. Okay. Now, if we're taking a look at more confluence here, right? If we're taking a look at the dollar, and this is something that, in my opinion, a lot of people should be taking a look at. When the dollar is weak, it bodes really well for not just crypto markets, but legacy and equity markets as well. Um, right? We had the breakdown, we had the close, the retest, rejection, and we pumped while the dollar was dumping. Okay, but we're entering the order block slash support area very soon. We should see some type of reaction from here, whether we come and put in a little bounce. If we bounce from here, we are still putting in another higher low. So the uptrend is still intact, even though we lost this trend line, it doesn't matter. We're still putting in higher lows. Okay, so higher low, highs, lows, highs, lows. This would be an area where we possibly can reverse from. I don't know how much we go. Maybe we go back to like 104.5-ish. But for me, in terms of Bitcoin strength, I am seeing new highs coming. Right? If I go to this chart here, right, we have an Adam and Eve pattern as well. Like everything points to higher. Double bottom, right? Adam and Eve is a double bottom pattern. Breakout, clear, retest, and then we send higher. If we break out from this line, which we are currently at, which is another resistance point, right? If we break out, retest, and hold, this would be your setup for a technical targets of new highs. Yeah. Right. But just with trend lines, we can adjust them and play with them. Here's an order block that would coincide with the retest point. So if this retest doesn't happen, I'd probably start setting bids around 69, 200-ish. And stops, depending on how tight you want it. Okay, because we have let me remove this one and put it here. Right, order block, demand zone. This might actually get front ran around, like I mentioned, in the scalp setup around 69, 300 or 400, but clear symmetrical triangle here, back down, and put in a double bottom slash demand zone and retest of this trend line breakout. Stops, depending on how tight you want them, either below here, or if you go in with a low margin or low leverage and big margin, you can have your stop loss below here, but don't below 67.2. Just don't use more than 2% of your portfolio, and then we'll target new highs. All right, so there's many setups that on different time frames can give you, many potential breakouts and retests. Okay, let me answer some questions, and then I'll jump back into looking at other ones. What is the minimum market cap for a coin you look at? So I basically look for coins in the top 50 market cap. No minimum unless something is trending. But if something is super volatile and illiquid, I trade them on spot. If I'm trading them on leverage, you better go low position size and low leverage. But shit like, let me pull it up really quickly. Let me look at my exchange. Okay. Shit like this. You would never catch me trading, right? It's trending, but when you have movements like this, right? Barcoding, these wicks, these scam wicks, you would never see me trading these coins, right? Coins like Zeus, right? It's trending. Look at these wicks, barcoding. You would never catch me touching these coins. If I do, I'm trading them on spot. All right, you never catch me trading these on leverage. But coins like Dogecoin, Dog with a Hat, Pepe, like these coins have established themselves in a high market cap, and although they are volatile, like if we take a look at Dog with a Hat, like these last 2 minutes, right, like 3% move up and 2% move down and then back up. Like this is pretty volatile, but the volume and the liquidity is there in my opinion to trade these. But stuff with like Zeus and whatever the fuck that first coin was, like they're not there. Okay? My number one rule, if you see high wicks like this, right? Scam wicks, I don't trade. If you see codes, if you see coins that are barcoding, right? Like SCA was the first one. I don't trade those, and you shouldn't either, unless you're going in with a low position size. Like you would never catch me. If I wanted to barcode something, I'd go to fucking Target. All right. Is it a short on Bitcoin good right now? I gave the setups and the potential confirmations to take. I would not short Bitcoin, no. I've heard that Tether will be an only sell asset after July 1st. No idea. I'll look into it though. I'm new here. I don't want to ask only where should I take signals. You have to refer support. Can you? What are your top 5 coins to trade? Leverage or spot? Because on spot, I trade everything. But in terms of leverage, Sol, ETH, Bitcoin, um, Link, and recently Floki. It's been super volatile and respecting my lines, and plus it's going to all-time highs soon. But these have been my most recent coins. But in terms of spot, like I trade again only high cap coins. Ondo has been perfect in terms of price action, so that's a good one to trade if you're looking to trade it on leverage as well. Can you explain the difference in value between Bitcoin US Coinbase? Yes. So this is something that I talk about a lot and frequently, not only in the Discord but on my Twitter. So the top one here is Coinbase. Okay, here are the perpetuals, and right now, for some reason, Binance has been higher on a lot of things, but right now it's pretty even. Okay, there is a $20 discount on Bitcoin on Coinbase versus spot. So what that means is one of two things. The market is heavily over leveraged, open interest is high, and if you take a look at your funding fees, for example, on Bitcoin, let me see what it is. Funding fee on Bitcoin is neutral, 0.01, but on other coins such as Sol or like Dog with a Hat, right? Like Dog with a Hat is 0.0335, meaning if funding fees are positive, you are going to pay a funding fee every 8 hours to those that are short if you are long. Okay, so positive funding fee means longs will pay the funding fee to the shorts, and negative means that shorts will pay funding fees to longs. So you don't want to. Personally, I don't want to be in a position if a coin is highly positive or highly negative. I'm not going to be in unless you have perfect entries from Pico bottoms or Pico tops, but you don't want to open up new positions when funding fees are high or highly negative. Okay, you can trade it on spot, totally fine, but right now it just means the market is pretty over leveraged. Open interest is high versus if Bitcoin on spot is leading, and I'm only looking for Coinbase. If Coinbase spot is leading, it is bullish, and if it is heavily discounted, it is bearish. But this is a lagging indicator. It doesn't mean it's going to go up. When I was posting this all over my channel and on Twitter, there was a $120 discount on perps versus spot price. So that was a leading indicator, and at that price, I think Bitcoin was at 68.7, 68.8K, and then we dipped down to 66.7K or whatever it was. Yeah, 60. Oh, this is a 30-minute chart. Yeah, we dipped down to 66.7. Right, so it was a lagging indicator, but now we're pretty neutral. This is fine. Like it's a $10 difference. So anything can happen here, and my bet is to the upside. What are your targets on Dogecoin for long-term spot, like 8 to 9 months? I think this eventually goes to 80 cents. So I'm holding. Hopefully it does. It hasn't really seen the volume that these other shitcoins like Dog with a Hat or Floki or Pepe have gotten. Like this is the original meme. Although I have these TPs, these are my short-term TPs for my short-term account. I think this coin goes eventually to 60 to 80 cents. How do you DCA in such a trending market? Most DCAs not get filled. Good question. So let's go to Sol, for example. And by the way, another example from the video that filled perfectly. Breakout, retest, triggered, and then you got a nice move up. But let's go to, say, Ondo. All right. Okay. So let's say that your original entry was, let's do here. Okay. Let's call entry. And you had DCAs, say here, and let's do here for shits and giggles. Okay. These are your DCAs. Right. Now, price never came down to your DCA, right? We had resistance here, okay? And then at that point, this was your all-time high break, right? At that point, you have to start, if you don't get your DCAs, you start averaging up. So you have to wait until resistance gets flipped to support, right? So here was resistance, right? Breakout. We broke out, flipped it to support. At that point, you would add. Okay, if this closed above, you would add. Right now, this is the all-time highs. Break out. We flipped it to support. Again, you have confirmation that this is going much higher, especially in price discovery. That's when you add to your position. So now your average entry rides up a little bit, right? But now you have more of a position size and a bigger position size with a little bit of higher entry, but you're still making more. But if you take this on leverage, right? So let's say if this was your original setup, okay, DCAs didn't get filled. You DCA'd once this flipped happened, and now your average entry is here, right? You have to adjust your original stop loss to mitigate the risk if it were to come down. At that point, you move your stop loss basically here, or if you are in profit, because if you averaged and price is here, right, you move your stop loss to break even. But if you want to give yourself more room, if this is your average, and let's say you want to DCA more, let's say here and here instead, your stop loss needs to be moved to a new point. Okay. Reading questions. XCM and Waves are shitcoins. There's a reason why they were delisted. I have no idea what the EEA is, so I'll take a look at that in a bit. I use a Palo ID to trade, so I'm not in. I'm in the U.S., so I'm in the restricted area, but I have a Palo ID and I use that to get into. Doesn't that mean you potentially make less because your average market price rose, but you don't technically make less? I mean, you're making more. You just have a higher entry now because you have more of a position size. Did you talk about Sol Lev? If you can, check. I did cover Sol in my video. Let's take a look at Sol. And then we'll take a look at ETH. ETH is much superior to Sol. Sol is for little queef boys. Okay, let me see. So, Sol, right? We had a little falling wedge action, breakout and retest. Let's go to a clean chart. Let's use Shitty MEXC. Okay. So let's trickle down here, right? Here is our daily resistance. Here is our daily support. Right? It's just been ranging between resistance and support. Okay. We have order blocks down here. One sec. Okay. Let's go down to a lower time frame. Okay. Sol bounced perfectly from a double bottom. We have clear resistance here on the 4-hour. Right? This is our main resistance though. If we do go to 178 up to 181, it is a short for me. We have right golden pocket around 178 up to 180. Multiple confluences for a short. Stops above the wick. Entry DCA around 183-ish should bring your average up to like here after the fact. Your DCAs should always be heavier than your entries. Okay, so that's why the average entry gets closer up to the second DC or to the DCA point, and then this is your setup, and hopefully it puts in a double top, something like this, hopefully, right, and then it comes back down. But in terms of longs currently, okay, here's your resistance. Very, very tight stop loss. Something like that. Maybe stop loss below 161. Entry, DCA around the golden pocket would bring your average down to like there. Risk is still intact, and then this would make it about a 3.5 hour trade if your DCA fills. Okay. Um, ETH really quickly. Where did I cover ETH? Ah, here it is. Okay. So, in my video, I mentioned that I would have loved an entry into this liquidity pocket here to grab this wick and recover it. Okay. Um, but we didn't get it. And I mentioned a good point to get into would be 37.30 down to that 36.50 region. And that's exactly what happened with ETH. Right? The lows that we got was 37.25. It bounced perfectly from this range here. Right? Support's been doing its job. Resistance. Here's your, low time frame range, right? You don't want to get into anything until this is flipped. So if this flips, right, then you can get into longs. But until that happens, you're just going to play the range over and over again, right? We may bounce from here. Here's a small little order block. It's very, very tight. Like if you're looking for a scalp, the R&R isn't worth it in my opinion because you're playing this range, right? It's a 1.3R trade. My suggestion would be long range lows until broken, back to the highs, and then again, if you were shorting, range highs would be the area to short. So this would have been your setup actually, back down to range lows, right? A range is the easiest setup that you could play. You're going to short range highs until proven wrong, and you're going to long range lows until proven wrong. Now, in this example, we've had multiple touches from highs and lows, so one side is eventually going to give. Now, this is a 2-hour time frame, so there's a lot of liquidity here waiting to be grabbed. Okay. OXT. What time frames are your favorite? So I'm a high time frame trader. I trade on the 4-hour time frame and higher. I predominantly love the daily and the 3-day. So, but anything higher than or anything 4-hour time frame or higher. Yeah, this one took the highs and dumped. See, that's what I was mentioning with Bitcoin, right? We took the highs, put in a swing failure, and then dumped. Bitcoin looking to do the same soon. Um, this coin's a slow mover, it looks like. Yeah, the breakout and retest happened perfectly. It's at crossroads right now, potentially waiting to break out. You want to see something like, right, breakout, retest, probably reject here again, put in an inverse head and shoulders, flip this, then it probably goes to here first, right? But again, wait. You have to wait for confirmation because we're at resistance here, downtrend resistance, but trend is still holding. You want to break out and retest. Yeah, OXT, not something I would touch. My opinion on Waves and XEM are not good ones. Waves is a shitcoin. There's a reason why it was delisted, right? Most of you guys didn't know me back then, but for the OGs that knew me back in 2021 or 22, I shorted $60 down to like 4. This is probably going to 0. Yeah. It's at basically lows. I wouldn't touch this coin. XEM, probably same thing. That's a shitcoin that really trends. Or sorry, barcodes. Like this is a 3-8 chart, but if we... Oh, this got delisted too, huh? Yeah, don't touch anything that delisted. It's at almost at all-time lows. So don't touch these coins. If you really want to, you know, like this is your, if you really want to get in, this is the area to get in. Stops would be below that wick. But if you really feel risky, right, go to a brothel and pay $5 and see what you get. If you come out with STDs, then yeah. Um, Reading questions. Do you use stop limit orders and what's the point of it? Stop limit on spot? No, I do not. My spot plays have no stop loss. So if let's say, let's go to Dogecoin, right? If Dogecoin did something like this, right? If let's say my entry was here and here, and we filled the DCAs, right? And then we started turning this into resistance, and we started making higher lows and lower lows, then I will cut my position out for a loss and then either re-enter lower or higher with confirmation. So you will never see me use a stop loss on spot. I will just wait until a macro level of support is turned into resistance, and then I will cut it for a loss, but not until my DCAs fill, right? So if this was my entry, this was my DCA, and let's say this was my DCA, my average would be something around like here-ish probably, right? And if this was support, which it is, right? If this turns into resistance, then I'm cutting out for a loss. And a lot of you guys know this or might not know this, but if a setup turned sour so fast, okay, and you think that the market has more turbulence to the downside, cut your plays for losses. You don't have to wait until stop losses hit. Don't try to DCA yourself out of it. It's okay to take a loss and get in lower. A lot of people do not want to take losses, but it's the smartest thing to do if you think the market goes lower instead of trying to wait until your stop loss hits. Okay, let's take a look at ton. fuck OKEX. Let's do KuCoin. Don't remember when I charted this, but let's take a look. All right. Got a little cup and handle here. Right. So you want this to break and then you long. That's if you're, oops. That's if you're waiting for confirmation. This would be your setup, break and long. Otherwise, you have support down here. Lower time frame. I don't know how this coin moves. I haven't studied it, but we have. Let's go to a lower time frame. Excuse me. Right, so something like this, no DCA, because the range is so tight. Right, stops below here. If you want a tighter stop, you can place it somewhere here. But come into it, grab liquidity, put in a possible, higher low here, and then continue to go higher. But if we don't get that, then flip of this, turn into support, and then you target. Like I mentioned, when we go into price discovery, it's the easiest trade that you could make. If you miss the FOMO, you wait until all-time highs get retested. So here's all-time highs, right? Yeah. You wait for all-time highs to get retested, and then continue, and then you place bids. If you miss the breakout, you place bids at all-time highs, and it usually gets filled and goes higher. Every single coin that has gone to price discovery has always touched its all-time highs. Okay. Oops. XTZ. My recommendation to anyone trading coins from last cycle: don't. Right? These coins will not have any upside to them. Right? Focus on new coins from this cycle. Focus on the narratives. Like this coin is dead. This chain is dead. They haven't had any like developments or anything. Okay. So we have lows, right? We're bouncing from it. Now it's getting weaker and weaker. Just like the highs are much stronger because less touches. But here is your range. Right? We had a small little breakout, but we have a lot to go. It's going to be a very slow mover. Just play the range until broken. Probably stops back there to there. And then range lows. I think we go and grab this. So I personally think this would be a doper setup. Back to range highs. Yeah, see there to the higher, or from the lows to the highs, it bounced perfectly from the golden pocket. The 786 fib is still remaining here, and I think that's a great entry with stops below the lows, back to the highs. Which time frames do you use for scalps? I don't really scalp. But if you are going to scalp, anything less than a 4 hour is considered a good time frame to scalp. Uni just took out the highs and most likely puts in an SFP. And I don't know why this coin's pumping. Probably, what is this? Are they KYC now? Are they considered centralized now? But with BNB running, whenever BNB runs, this coin runs. How much do you invest per coin for spot? So my spot trades are anywhere from 6 to 12%, depending on how confident I am. Usually, if it's a high risk setup, I risk anywhere from, like, for example, the dog with hat. I risk only 2% of my portfolio on that. But if it's a high risk setup, then I risk 12%, and I'm not in any more than 4 to 5 trades at a time. So the reason why I don't give many calls, I mean, you will never see me be at a volume of Neil or, someone that gives 50 calls in a month. I stick to my 15 to 20 calls a month, and that's it. But when it comes to spot, I go in with 6 to 12%, and I don't enter a new play unless I trim or I close out a position, and then I look for something else. Okay, I'm never in more than 4 to 5%. I try to maximize as much as I can from that setup. And even if I do trim, if DCAs do not fill, I recompound at the same levels, whether it's the original entry or DCAs, and I wait for the most profits that I can take before I just ditch that setup and I go into something else. So I enter with 6 to 12%. Some do really well. Like, I think Floki gave me a 60% move. You can hit some home runs with some of these plays. Would you please give your thoughts on FET after the merging? I have no idea. It's going to be a new coin, so I can't. And it's going to be like a split, so I don't really know. I can't really do that. It won't be called FET anymore. Damn, I've had 15 losses in my time here. That's crazy. All spot, by the way. Maybe like of the 206, 10 were leverage. What about leverage calls? How would you set up your risk management, let's say with 1,000? That is everything with leverage is mentioned in my channel. It's pinned. Yep. Let's take a look at, one sec, let me see Bitcoin. Yeah, Bitcoin, perfect rejection from the 4 hour order block, took out liquidity, closed below. This most likely puts in an SFP. Now, it's going to be, like I mentioned, shorts are going to be risky here, but if this closes in the next 12 minutes like such, right, this is your setup. Now, because the move is now greater away, your risk increases, you lower your position size. What type of trade where we can increase risk? Could you ask that differently? Basically, your A tier setups, right? Your high conviction trades are going to be those that have good movements and volatility in terms of price action, right? So like Sol, Bitcoin, ETH, like those are going to be S tier trades because price action is not really move, or price isn't really moved by garbage news where the Sol community, right? Like Iggy Azalea can rug her community, and the whole entire Sol community just drops, right? Like Sol price drops, everything attached to Sol drops. That's why they're the shittiest community. They're so toxic and full of scams. Whereas, Bitcoin and ETH, easy to trade. The only thing affecting them are, war, news, ETFs, right? We don't have that scumbag of celebrity bullshit going on in that space. Nah, I keep it real. So when it comes to Sol, fuck them. I don't care. Yes, FET is one of my biggest spot bags. Not in my top five, but I have an average entry price of 30 cents. I've taken out my initial when it hit like $3.30. The rest is free, so I've just been holding. Soul Queefs. Yep, I'm gonna trademark that. All right. So that's the market update for me. Basically where I think we're gonna go. I think you can get 69K one more time. If this successfully holds, we will see all-time highs. As I mentioned, Bitcoin is still like in this range from range highs to lows, right? On the daily, right? Here's your range highs. Here's your mid range. Here's your lows. There's no successful anything until this breaks out and holds. And I think I have this chart here. I posted this. Here's the cheat sheet. If you type in cheat sheet on my channel, you will see this. Okay, um, but this hasn't changed, and I'll post this. Not sure who Arshino is, but thank you. This is the cheat sheet. All right. So I'm gonna stop recording here. I'll post this